Smith. It's so good to have you here on my Flora Fridays. It's been a while. We've been needing to catch up for quite a while now. Max and I have been friends and connected for, I don't know, at least 2 years.
Definitely. On the
Um,
longer side of 2 years for sure.
yeah, and Max and I found each other when I was looking into GrowDoc, which is, I'll let you talk about what GrowDoc is, but um I was utilizing and trying to learn and um, figure out how to use GrowDoc to help us with our cultivation facility that I was working in because we were having a lot of problems, not due to anything I did, of course. But the nature of our grow, which was aquaponics, it creates some challenges, and being able to diagnose one thing among many can be challenging. And so Max was really helpful when we were trying to dial that in. But Max, you know you better than I know you. So if you could tell the people who you are, what you do, and what brought you to cannabis, uh,
Definitely.
would love to hear it.
I definitely thank you so much for the time and the patience today, and I really appreciate being here on your stage. It's truly an amazing experience, especially to reconnect with you again and just hearing your lovely voice. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Being a little bit on the selfish side, I will say that I am my favorite topic, but with that aside, so my name is Max, Max. Just as a quick little introductory right there, I do have two X's. The second one is the kiss, like when you write letters XOXO. So Max with the kiss. You'll always remember it from now on. I initially started in the horticultural space. I wanted to do some research earlier on in my university career in plant genetics, and I was actually stuck between a rock and a hard spot because I kind of applied for my master's a little bit on the later side, and nobody wanted to take me on or work on the project that I had in mind. And so I had kind of had to diversify. And here in Canada, there was a program. It was called the Commercial Cannabis Production Program. And what it offers there is it promotes and allows people to grow into growers and understanding how to grow cannabis on a commercial side. And that's kind of where my cannabis experience first took off. And my passion really took me towards integrated pest management. I think that prevention is always the best solution. And because IPM touches so many various different topics in a different grow space, I mean, on the mechanical side, right, on the environment, if there's fans that aren't working and there's no air, it could be conducive to botrytis. Open holes in the grow space can lead to pests, problems irrigating, or pH issues, soil issues, some way somehow all leak back into IPM some way somehow. And so I started off in that space. I was working with greenhouses and just kind of building out their forms for going from GACP over to GMP. And one of the biggest things that I was finding is that there was a lot of facilities that were still on pen and paper, and the communication between different departments, or even at the base level, a level 5 severity for me might be a different level 5 severity for you. And so kind of how we communicate those problems and how we approach them, how severe should we take this problem, that already off the get-go was at a disconnect. And so how do we bring that all under the sun and under the same umbrella? And so there was the GrowDoc app, which initially started off as a picture taking app where you could take a picture of your plant, and it worked in collaboration with Niagara College. And we built a bunch of different models for AI where you could take a picture of your plant and it would give you the issue that it was there. So whether or not it's a nutrient deficiency, a potential disease, even as far as pest identification. And so it was a fantastic app. It had great reviews, but I think that the cannabis industry and horticultural industry as a whole is very much based off of teamwork making the dream work, and words going by and people speaking. And so somebody said, "Hey, this is great for one plant, but I would love to do this for, let's say, 1,000 plants or 10,000 plants." And so we incorporated that visual aspect into a digital platform where you could walk around with your phone and you could say, "Hey, this is fantastic," or "I've got problems here. It's a severity 5. It's a standardized scale. We can reproduce any kinds of forms on pen and paper and put them in a digital space." So rather than having to reinvent the wheel of different IPM strategies that people are already implementing, because I will say that everybody does it a little bit differently. Everybody's kind of unique in their own way. And so having a one size fit all way for the platform to work, and you probably remember as well just kind of how simple it was to input information, and create those forms and really get that inform get the details that you want out of it. And then we started expanding into, report generation, being able to automate those as well, bringing in, the AI aspect to it. How can we take out the middle part and keep people in the greenhouses? And then we got into a crossroad where, this is fantastic. The platform is good. It's good for IPM, but people don't always want to be carrying tablets or carrying phones, specifically when it comes to sticky cards. And so we're trying to think of solutions, right? How do we get people to be on the platform to get the data that they need to make those reports? And so we were thinking maybe walkie-talkies. I mean, I was very familiar in grow spaces using walkie-talkies to communicate to teams back and forth. But then we had that hesitancy of, okay, well, what if I make a mistake? How do I correct that? And then we're a pretty forward-thinking group, and so we were thinking next, hey, what about drones? Drones are great. They can fly. They're automated. They can take pictures. You can get 4K cameras on them. That's fantastic. But I think that bugs kind of saw that coming, and they thought, what about? And that's where they hide, right? Is under the leaves. And so, drones are great for over the crop and general health. But if we're trying to dive in a little bit deeper and get specific about it, bugs like to hide under the leaves. And so, drones kind of didn't answer that question for us. And if we want to equip people rather than replacing individuals, we could probably make them a little bit more efficient. You don't have to stop what you're doing. You can just speak, take pictures, see reports of the grow space, and just kind of really streamline that process between A and B and spend more time in the greenhouse. And it's been such an exciting journey from start to finish. And being able to have the foundation of the visual AI portion that we had already from the app and incorporated it into our platform has just been a really great blend of sugar and spice. No.
That's awesome. So basically, you're just a big nerd.
Yeah, a little bit of a geek. Yeah, thank you.
No,
I
it's
like
awesome.
bugs. I hate bugs to the point where I don't want them near. But I like beneficial insects. I'm a big fan of it. I like the spiders in my house. I mean, I see that as free bios. That's my
I think as long as they stay hidden and don't, if they're in my general vicinity, I'm not down with that. But if they're hidden and they're doing their thing, then that's okay. I just learned that spiders
out
are
of
like super sensitive and they definitely know where we are all the time, even though we
definitely
don't know where they are. And
out of
they're
sight, out of mind, right?
yeah. And I know that they are eating all the ants and fruit flies and stuff, so that's cool.
If anything, they're always looking for a secondary confirmation and not necessarily that initial diagnosis. And so we were able to kind of cut down a little bit on that on the identification model and speed it up. But we were able to throw in a sticky card identification model. And so instead of walking around and having identifications of bugs or diseases or deficiencies on the plants as you're walking through, you're able to take pictures of sticky cards. And rather than manually counting them, it does a tally for you. It boxes and identifies them. I think it's pretty neat. I mean, it saves me a lot of time. And I remember being on those sticky cards, 37, 38, wait, what was I? 39, wait, 28, 76. I'm pretty sure I counted that fungus gnat. Is part of the fungus gnat from before?
Oh wait, is that a leg?
Yeah.
Do I
Is
count
this
the
a leg
leg?
or a bug?
Do
It's
I
all the
count the leg
same.
as a whole bug or is it a bug and a half? Okay, so does it, all right, so I know that with the old GrowDoc that I was using a couple of years ago, like you could go around and you could take pictures to identify what a disease might be. And like it would give you like a percent kind of output, like 76% sure that this is lettuce chlorosis virus, right? So, and that was cool. And sometimes it was like 10% sure this is powdery mildew, and it's like, well, okay, that's not really, I don't know, that's
That's
not a
not
very good
confident.
percentage. um but the other cool thing that it would do, right, is that you could map out your greenhouse. You could tell it where everything was in your greenhouse, all your beds, so that when you took a picture of something, it would kind of like map hotspots of where you're having breakouts of either diseases or bugs or whatever the case may be, so that you could
Yes.
identify, why do we always get powdery mildew in this corner? Maybe there's an airflow problem there, or something like that. Does it know where, like, have a GPS so it knows where you're standing when you're looking and you go, hey, I'm seeing something here, take a note, and then it'll know what part of the greenhouse you were in?
At this very moment, I would say it's in the beta stage of that. We can get like the longitude and the latitude and coordinate that with the plants in that map that you remember and be able to say, hey, I see a thrip here, but rather than having to say that location of here, it's able to just tie it in there. It's in the beta stage, but yes. But at the
Hmm.
very moment, if I were to go into a grow space right now, I have to say, yes, I'm by plant, or I'm by bed 6, or I'm by bed 7, and it's all connected into the system. Even if I take a picture now, rather than it going to kind of the scan history that we had before, I can attach that image to a specific box as well. And if it's connected to a crop or a variety or a batch or a strain, I can then pull that report up. And then not only am I going to have the nice little graphs, but I can then pull out all the images as well and have those on a timestamp basis. So I can really, really look back at a crop from a general overview and then take all
Hmm.
that info and dive in a little bit deeper as well.
Gotcha. So I don't, while you were talking, and I don't know how to, I don't know what question I want to ask or how it's forming in my head, but it's not a fully formed question at all. But like, I think about apps like iNaturalist, when
Okay.
you're walking through the forest and you take a picture of a plant and then iNaturalist tells you what it is. Not only does it do that to tell you what it is, and then it gives you a little badge like, oh, you're a good little forager or
If
whatever. You get a foraging.
gamifying it,
Uh,
yeah.
but it also takes data, right? It takes metadata. So where you are, what the date is, what the time is, and all of that data gets processed and gives us, well, not me, but gives the people who are analyzing the data, um, information about really important stuff, especially when we're thinking about climate change. Um, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Phonology? Is that it? Timing events of like
Yeah.
when things are flowering, when insects are emerging, because like some plants emerge based on day length, which isn't really going to change due to climate change, but some plants emerge due to temperature changes. Same thing with bugs, right? Some emerged because of day length, some emerge due to temperature changes. And so um especially those two things like plant emergence or flower emergence and insect emergence, if it's altered by the temperature, you can have bugs that come out too early and there's no plants there for them to eat, so they'll die before they can even reproduce. Same thing if you've got a flower that emerges and needs to be pollinated by a pollinator and it comes too early, there's no pollinators around, now that plant's going to suffer. So like that has nothing to do with GrowDoc, but like that's in my head. What I'm seeing is that it can, these kind of apps can provide so much information. Do you kind of know where I'm going with that?
Absolutely, and I think that that's fit. No, I absolutely do. I absolutely do because on the larger scale of things, right? I mean, with knowledge is power, and information you can do with it and interpret it in lots of different ways, and especially when it comes to climate change too, and especially when it comes to different pest and disease pressures that are coming up at different times of the year that are unexpected. I think that you might say that GrowDoc is unrelated to that, but I think that in some way, shape, or form I would say in an ideal world, if we could be working with a bunch of greenhouses in different regions of the world, we could start to kind of map out that quote unquote that metadata. I mean, like for lack of a better way, I mean everybody's data is very secure. I feel like I have to throw out the disclaimer there. It's not misused in any kind of mismatch way. It's very important and it's incredibly secure in a way where everybody needs to feel comfortable with it. Um, but being able to take information from date, time, location, region, time of the year, it allows us to paint instead of it being the map on the grids that we have for individual plants or individual beds, but we can start doing a heat map for an entire region, and then we can kind of look back and be like, okay, well, 2 3 years ago or maybe last year, there was a spike in this specific pest that we hadn't seen before. Maybe we can take preventative measures so that we're not hit as hard this year, or we can have a little bit of a 2020 vision where we can see the issues that we've had in the past in different regions and being able to apply it forward and be able to potentially reduce the amount of pesticides that we're using, potentially use more biological agents, take a lot more green approaches, a lot more healthier approaches that just makes it a lot better for everybody. I mean, I would think that in an idealistic world, if we're spending less money to grow our food, then our food should not keep going up in price. And I think that that just makes food security a little bit more available across the board. And, it's just that concept that you have about the metadata might not be directly related, but I definitely think that it trickles into so many different areas and aspects of life that we don't think about on a constant basis, but they're important in their underlying.
No, but like, oh my God, that's so cool, Max, because I've been thinking about this for ages, and I actually work with the Agricultural Genomics Foundation, and we're working on trying to get regional information, regional data on how different strains perform in different regions. Like every single packet of seeds that you get at the Home Depot has a zone on it, right? It says,
Yes,
right? And we have seed zones. And it'll say on there, this grows well in these zones. If you're not in that zone, then
it
these
doesn't
they're not going
grow.
to perform well, right? So you need to grow for your zone. And I've been wanting to do this for cannabis for quite a while because, we've got these seed companies like Oregon CBD. They develop their seeds in Oregon and they perform well in Oregon. If you purchase seeds from Oregon CBD, which is also called GTR, and you're in Florida, and you are hoping to grow some CBD flower and you want to be compliant to your hemp program, which means that they need to be under 0.3% total THC, you get to the end of your grow cycle and bam, you're at 1%. How did that happen? They said that they are they don't guarantee, and that's why that they don't guarantee you're going to be under, because they perform differently in different climates. But if we had these seed zones, if something like this could take data from different areas and gather that information, then we could start coming up with seed zones. And like you said, like if we see a certain pest outbreak in a certain area, we could maybe correlate that with, oh, this was a very wet year, the Mississippi River flooded, and so maybe that's what drove that, extra spike in insect, or the pathogen or whatever. Or it was a very mild winter and so we didn't get a permafrost, and so blah blah blah, like, starting to connect the dots in more of an ecological sense rather than just a, oh, my plants suck, I've got caterpillars, or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely, right. It allows us to gather a couple more pieces of the puzzle, and like I know everybody like uses the analogy of looking through a keyhole, but I mean rather than being comfortable with looking through the keyhole, why don't we open the door, look inside, see what we can do with that. And so knowledge is power, but great power comes great responsibility. Always got to keep
Yeah.
that in mind as well.
So I was in a chat on, well, not like in a chat group, but like like a thread thing on Facebook or something, in a group. And I was talking about GrowDoc, like somebody was having problems with their plants or whatever. And I was like, you can, there's this app that you can use, and it's kind of cool. You take a picture and it'll maybe potentially tell you what's going on with your plants. And this one girl was like, GrowDoc sucks. I took it around my house and I took pictures of my plants, and it didn't tell me anything. And I was like, your house plants? And she's like, yeah, like my ferns and my this and my that. I was like, that's because GrowDoc is specifically for cannabis. Like it's not going to know what's on your ficus. And
Oh,
and like that was like an aha moment. I was like, yeah, like, are people trying to use GrowDoc to diagnose other plants? But it sounds like you're diversifying into that space as well. No
definitely. Like to
problem.
address that about that the ficus and your friend and her plants, I definitely apologize. Like it's definitely on our side of things for not making it as crystal clear as possible that, it gives people a poor experience, right? And then negatively that turns out on us. And so that's if anything, if she's watching at this moment, I do want to sincerely apologize that we kind of misled her in that way. And so
Well,
that's
I
we
don't.
gotta
I mean,
bring
I
that
don't think
home.
so. I mean, it was a cannabis specific platform developed for cannabis cultivators, and so I mean, I don't know. Some people just don't think things all the way through, or it's use the wrong tool for the wrong purpose. That's okay. She wasn't mad about it. She was just like, "Oh, that's why it didn't work."
It's not that deep. It's not that deep.
It wasn't that deep, no, and she wasn't like, "Fuck those guys."
Yeah. Those guys are not invited to dinner anymore. For anybody watching, if this is something that piques your interest, I think that it would definitely lock it in if you have a passion for integrated pest management and you're trying to find a way to spend less time managing information and interpreting data results and making Excel graphs and making charts and losing pieces of paper about notes. being able to keep it in one concise space and being able to access it on your phone, on a tablet. I think it allows people to really spend a lot more time in the grow spaces and be able to answer and create questions. Say, okay, well, if it wasn't the leak that we had, what other things that we have going on at that time? Rather than having snapshots on a weekly basis, we can have a live map of what's been going on a day by day basis.
Okay. And so big cultivation facilities, medium, small.
It ranges from as far as you can think. I don't have numbers right off the top of my head, but there are some extremely large grow spaces that are in on the west coast of Canada, and there's some smaller sides on the east coast too. And there's always something there for them on that platform. I mean, to kind of, I hate to sound so businessy, but we don't do our pricing based off of size. We really do our pricing off of users, and so somebody that has a smaller facility can take just as much advantage as somebody that has a larger facility. It really just boils down to how many people are using that platform. And so that I think that that gives us the edge in making it more accessible, making it more affordable as well. And, just like TV packages, being able to, plug and play, what do I want? Do I want to use the sticky card AI, or do I want to be able to take pictures? Do I want the voice recognition, so on and so forth, and really be able to strip it down and make it as bare bones as need be, but still keep that functionality of being able to take pictures and send photos and add notes.
Yeah, so cultivation margins are pretty thin. Uh, they got to hit their numbers and they got to pinch their pennies. And how does this platform help save money or increase y- y- pro increase productivity, increase revenue? I mean, that's all they care about, right?
I right off the bat, it'll be for us, the quickest return that you would see is based off of the treatments that are done, whether it's biological or chemical. So, for example, if you're doing a large scale spray, you're using more and more product. But if you're able to do maybe potentially a spot spray or a targeted spray over time, you'll spend a little bit less money. Same thing with biological agents. If you know where your hotspots are right off the bat, you don't have to put 4 sachets in a corner that has no bugs or issues. You can put those sachets in an area that needs a higher focus, and being able to do those targeted approaches fine tunes that in as well. On the report side of things, how long does it take for somebody to sit down at Excel, to create that graph? Is that a time that we'd be able to spend in the greenhouse and identifying and treating more plants? I mean, as a one for one, right? If I can spend less time making a graph on Excel and more time pruning a plant, it pays off in itself in that way as well, right? It's the allocation of time and the priority of timing. Growers are experts at growing, and they don't necessarily need to spend the time on Excel if that's not their space. Does that make sense? I don't want to be
Mhm.
like exclusive or anything like that and bash on Excel, but it's the easiest way to compare it.
Some people don't know how to use Excel.
And that
Um,
shouldn't be a disadvantage.
no. So this is more like it's like a productivity enhancer.
Yes,
So you can allocate your time to things more efficiently.
I believe so, definitely. A really great comparison is just Jarvis to Iron Man. That's who we try to be.
Okay. And so does it still have the functionality where, because I thought that when you take the picture and it tells you what's wrong, I really thought that was kind of a cool idea. Has that gone away then, or is that still part of it?
No, it's still a part of it. And the only difference now is that rather than it being in one specific section, you can connect it to, or sorry, rather than it being in a general kind of folder of images, you can put it in a specific location now, so you can tie it in a little bit deeper. It's more specific, but that feature is still there. So you can still take pictures and get that percentage analysis of it's potentially 35% or 70% or 80% phosphorus deficiency, or based off of the symptoms of pests. This looks like thrip bite marks. This looks like thrip scratching, aphids, exoskeletons. That feature is 100% totally still there.
How good does your photography skills have to be to get a good diagnosis?
Um, not not necessarily the best, and that's okay. Cameras do a lot of the heavy lifting for us nowadays too, especially
Uh-huh.
with the quality of cameras that we're getting.
because you said thrip bite and thrip scratch, and I'm like, thrips are very,
Oh,
very small. So they must have very, very, very small bite marks.
I definitely used the wrong language, but definitely the scratching when you see the silver on the
The
leaf.
silver
Yeah,
little
the
trails.
lines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, dead giveaway, if you ask me.
right. And you can spot those with your naked eye. It's easy for us to spot with a phone camera to make that identification.
Yeah, yeah. So, mosaic pattern, like I love when I see a mosaic pattern. I've come in contact with a few people who uh think that mosaic can only be the result of a virus, which I don't think is true because why wouldn't it be also a genetic, issue? You could have, a mutation that maybe knocks out chlorophyll in a cell. That cell divides. Now you've got two cells that don't are not able to, make green. Then it divides again. You got and so you end up with a section of the leaf that doesn't have chlorophyll. And depending at what stage of growth you're at, whether you're a very, if it happens very young or like later in life, do you and there are multiple different mosaic viruses too, and they all have that symptom of mosaic. Um, and sometimes it causes bending of the leaves. Is it sensitive enough to be able to be like, oh, this is this mosaic virus or that mosaic virus, or it looks more genetic than viral, or have you not even like dug that deep into that?
I think that's a great question. I can't say that we've dug deep enough to be able to do that identification of it. Um, for the different mosaics, though, I think it'd be hard to do off of a camera because even when we're looking at it as experts do, and they check out those plants, they still need kind of that chemical analysis done, that genealogical experimentation. Is that a word I can use? When they do the genomic test for those plants to really put the marker down, that's if you can't do it visually with your eyes in a naked way,
Hmm.
but again to kind of ask you a question, Anna, would we not be able to kind of answer that question of if it's viral or if it's genomic by using CRISPR, for example, being able to potentially sequence, a healthy leaf versus a non-healthy leaf. By non-healthy, I mean a mosaic leaf, and then using CRISPR to kind of fix the differences?
I mean, I don't know why you'd want to fix the difference. It's like, vitiligo on in humans or cats. I have a cat that has vitiligo. But I don't think that that mutation is necessarily something that needs to be fixed.
Oh, you caught me on that one, definitely.
I
Wow.
like, and a lot of people love mosaic patterns, like some of the like the house plants, the ornamental plants that have the white and green leaves, like those are highly sought after.
Yeah,
Or
variegated
pink,
plants, yeah.
yeah, variegated plants. Um, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good at telling if something is viral versus a mutation because to me they just look different. Like I think about, calico cats, right? You can have a heavily calico cat where it's like really super duper modeled, or you can have a cat that has like patches of orange and black and white. And those are because certain cells got turned on and off to 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 express different colors at different
Yeah.
times in development. And I kind of see variegation in the same way that you can have a highly variegated where it's really, really, or you can have like half of the leaf is white and half of the leaf is green, even to the point where you have half of the plant is white and half of the plant is green. So there's like variation, there's like levels of variations of variegation. That's it.
Bars.
And then but the viral mosaic variegation to me looks really different. It's more of a uniform or more of like a not a not like it doesn't look like natural variegation due to mutation to me looks very organized, like you would see in cell division. Like cells aren't going to divide and then make this crazy pattern where a virus is just kind of going to go everywhere. I don't
Hmm.
know. To me, they look different because I know the mechanism behind how they happen, I think. Um, and so, I feel like if you don't, if you can't tell if it's viral or a mutation, I think that people might be culling plants because they think that they're infected with something versus just a natural mutation. And I don't know if it's a big deal or not that people are, culling plants, but getting rid of some super pretty stuff. For example, ChemDog is a naturally variegated strain. So a lot of people who grow ChemDog, they'll see the variegation. But like, what if you're growing ChemDog and then you see the variegation and you're like, oh, it's disease, and you pull it out and now you've lost a whole plant that could have been perfectly great.
Yeah, because I look at it from a slightly different perspective. But even like I would say specifically when it comes to strains, right, they are looked at as cash crops. And so being able to maximize as much production as we can get out of them, right? I mean, for lack of a better way, they're just kind of I don't want to use the word slaughterhouse, but they're just factories in a way. I know I sound so this is so
Sterile.
bureaucratic in this way, but these plants are grown for, the one purpose of expanding the flowers and, if certain, phenomes are expressed in like, the variegation that you see, these plants are, they're not producing as much sugar as they're not photosynthesizing as much as they could be. And
Yeah.
so it's costing me more in the long run to
To keep a
produce those
To keep a
trichomes.
pretty, yeah, to keep a pretty plant in lieu of, making money.
Yeah, and so like from that perspective, but I absolutely agree with you. I mean, like there's like those super freak strains that were out a couple years ago too, where the
Freak
leaf
show.
texture, yes, they were I think those were gorgeous plants into how cannabis plants are so crazy in the way that they can grow. I think it's beautiful, but I wouldn't want to grow that as a commercial crop.
Yeah, freak show is weird. I actually have some freak show seeds and I have grown it before and one of them was a male. The males are crazy. Even their flowers are abnormal. Like the
Wow.
male flowers, they're like naked. They don't have any petals like the regular males do. Yeah, they're really interesting looking. I have pictures I'll send you. Um, but there's a lot of people who like it, but I find, and I'm not a good grower. I'm not going to pretend to be a good grower, but I found them each time I've grown them, they're super pretty, but they take a really long time to grow, and um they didn't really seem to have a good yield, at least compared to my other plants, and
What
so
if it was the region?
what if it's just me that sucks?
What if it, no, 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 no. You got to give yourself some credit on that side. I'm gonna blame the region. You're not in the perfect zone
I'm
for
probably
freak
not in the
show.
well, I'm probably not in the perfect zone, and I probably didn't put it in the perfect soil or in this perfect pot. Um, but I mean, and I don't grow because I'm trying to get the biggest yields and the dankest, terpenes or anything. I grow because I think the plant's really pretty and it's fun. I just like growing it. So I'm not
I
really out
agree.
for
It's
yields. And so when I get a freak, a variegated plant or a freak show or something that's interesting, something that's different, like I kind of nerd out on that. Oh my God, if I get fasciation, I love it. Like totally not good in a cultivation setting if you're, growing for money, but yeah, the
it's a novel. It's a novelty, right?
yes.
It's a nice habit. It's a trinket, some will say. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's being able to kind of add those to your collection. I agree. It's really kind of when you're looking at it, what is the purpose of the growing, right? And that
Mhm.
changes kind of how we have our perspective on what like on that aspect. You know what I mean?
I wonder if we'll ever be able to grow cannabis as like an ornamental house plant because you know how they have like crested cacti, those are face.
Like bonsai?
Yeah, well, yeah, and well, there's these crested, and I forget what species it is, but you can buy them at like Walmart. They're like all like wiggly, like kind of looks like I don't know, a scallop shell or something. It's crested, and that's a fasciated form of this cactus, and
Wow.
they propagate it because it looks so cool, and I think it would be really cool to have like fasciated cannabis to grow as an ornamental. It wouldn't be very good for smoking because because that flower is so dense, it
Hmm.
harbors mold and stuff like that. But it looks cool as shit. Or in the stem, the flattened stem, when you get a fasciated stem, it looks like
Yeah.
flat celery kind of. That's cool too.
It's there was a gentleman on Instagram, I forget his name. Um, I don't know if he does it still now, but he used to bonsai cannabis plants that were flowering. You might have seen that along the ways, but they were like
Yeah.
these tiny, small little, it'd be like maybe one or two or three buds on a plant. It was completely swirled around itself, and I thought that was cannabis art to that way. I would love to have be able to put my hands on, being able to bonsai a cannabis plant just on my little desk. I think it'd be such a cute little desk ornament too.
It
And
would
oh,
it would but then you think because most bonsais, right, are trees, so they don't it's not an it's
they don't
an
grow the
annual
same.
an annual it's an annual or a perennial. I don't know. I always get that mixed up. But yeah, it's gonna flower and die. So you could you would have to hold it back from flowering if you wanted to keep it around for a while. And then once you send it into flower, to finish out and then die. And then you'd have to start all over again. But I guess that
Isn't
could
that part
be
of the art though?
a fun first of April start off your spring hobby of bonsaiing your cannabis.
Right. And so being able to let go at the same time. But I think I think it's just interesting the different ways that we can take cannabis, right? I think it's been such a great plant that we're able to, take it into like a medicinal sense as well as a hobbyist aspect of it too, as well as, a teaching tool. I think from my experience working with cannabis and different crops, that cannabis is the one that's taken the most scientific kind of approach to it where people are really diving into the nitty gritty of, what are the fertigation mixes, what are the NPKs of these specific ones. Whereas a lot of traditional horticultural growers will be like, hey, my grandfather did it this way, my father did it this way, so I'm going to do it this way. And
Hmm.
I think that, bringing cannabis into the frame, it allows for innovation in technology and different growing practices as well, and just innovation as a whole. And whether that be on, the commercial side of things, on the hobby side of things, I think that it's overall there's a lot of good that can come from, having this plant around. It's been around for however long, and on the legal side of things, right, it's starting to not be as much of a taboo topic as it used to be either, which I think is fantastic.
I think since we sit in the circle that we sit in, maybe we don't see the taboo that is still very much
That
out
could be.
there.
Maybe I probably do live in a box, a little under a cozy dank rock is what it is.
Um, but no, I do think the taboo is starting to change, and you have the distinct pleasure of being in a country where it's fully legal. But it really has been an uphill battle. Like, everybody that I talk to, we talk about how far behind we are for such an incredible economic crop. Like multi-billion dollar industry in multiple countries. And in terms of how far ahead we should be in the crop science of cannabis, we are so far behind. And it's, corn, soy, cotton, all that stuff. We know so much about it. We've got double haploids, uh, I don't even know. I'm not an agronomist or a horticulturist, but we're barely scratching the surface, and cannabis is such a complex plant with all of the, 500 plus compounds that it makes, and the genome is incredibly complex. It's got, multiple places where parts of the genome are duplicated. Um, I'm not even sure if we have all of the chromosomes completely put together. Last time I looked, I don't think we do. So we're still, the complete genome was published in 2012. And we're still trying to figure out the genome, and it's 2026. Like and we still haven't figured it out yet. And we're still looking at, THCA synthase and CBDA synthase, and how come the plant doesn't make CBC in any really appreciable levels when it's one of the three main biosynthetic pathways that the plant has to work with. Like, where are all the CBC varieties? And now
Yeah.
in CBD or THCV and CBDV, very cool. I like we just don't know that much at the moment, and it's
I
kind of
don't think we
nutty.
even know the questions we want to ask it either. So I think you raise a really good point that, although we're making a lot of great strides, we still have to look and kind of see that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, especially on the studying of it, on the science side for sure. I mean, so many yeah, being able to answer those questions would be huge too, right? Being able to create, there's so many opportunities to be had from that.
Yeah, I was
I didn't mean
talking
to
to
hijack you,
no, no,
yeah.
no, 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 that's cool. I was talking to Zamir Punja yesterday, which was
Wow.
yeah, he's such a sweetheart. He's such a cool dude. Um, but we were talking about, because we are so far behind, it's incredibly important that we all share our information, right? There are companies that are like, I'm keeping my data and everything, my research is all super secret and you're not allowed to know. And it's like if we all could share, then we could start moving forward faster and get to where we need to be where we are with other crops. And so he is very generous with sharing information. We talked about during the pandemic, he had nothing to do but write. He put out something like 20 papers in one year because he
What a
was
machine. Oh, shout out the guy, man.
but yeah,
Local legend, local legend.
he's so great. And and that really resonated with me. Like we need to share because if we have all of these like silos of people doing the same shit, like what a waste of time and money that is when we could all be like, okay, what are you doing? Okay, you do that and I'll do this and I'll do this and then we all come together and pool our information and our knowledge so that we can start like moving this industry forward faster than is traditionally done when we're all trying to be super secret with our proprietary bullshit that isn't really proprietary because everybody's fucking doing it.
Do you think that kind of that proprietary kind of mindset is is ancestral to kind of the black market of cannabis in a way, where everything had to be secret sauced?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Like I feel like in in a what are we? We're a capitalistic society in a corporate market. Like
Late stage, definitely
no,
late stage.
yeah, nobody wants to share their super secret money making, you know, tips and tricks and R&D because they want to make all the money, right? But
Fair.
but yeah, I don't know how to tackle that question. Yeah, for sure with the black market and I'm actually super impressed with how the legacy folks have managed or did manage to do what they did for such a long time and keeping it super secret while I talk to a lot of legacy people who are like, I'm not a scientist. I'm like, yes, you are. You are. You're following the scientific method. Granted,
Literally,
you
yeah,
didn't
literally.
you didn't go to school. You don't have letters after your name. That doesn't mean you're not a scientist. What you did was you had a question, you tested some things, you made some observations, you made some conclusions, and then you did it again to make sure that what you were seeing is not a fluke. And then you did it again. That's literally the
That's
scientific method.
science. That's science
The
right
only
there.
thing you're missing is writing it down. Because record keeping would have been a telltale sign that you've been doing this.
Doing
So
illegal activity. Yeah.
doing illegal activity. So a lot of people didn't write stuff down, but they got the steel trap. They know all of the information, right? So, and they've got, like codes written on stuff and whatnot. And I'm like, you are a scientist. And so I think like a lot of this stuff that we do know about cannabis or that we're working on in cannabis may have already been done or has already been started by people who are in the legacy market. And I don't particularly like calling it bro science. I mean, that it kind of has a negative connotation to it, but also all of those questions that we have, or all of the bro science that people talk about, like flushing and stuff like that, or um, I don't know, I guess blanking. Oh, putting ice on your plants 3 days before you harvest to try and push,
Yeah,
the
those things.
terpenes out or make the trichomes bigger. Like I honestly think that if 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 there are people talking about it and saying this is what I do and this is why I do it, like why can't we start putting some like actual rigorous controlled studies behind these things to see, will you say that you do this because of this and it does work? Like, let's try and figure out why that is, and if it really does work, or if it's just your crazy mind thinking that it's working. And even then, I'm like, okay, so this indica sativa thing kind of bothers me. No such thing as indica and sativa. I'm like, but
No,
but
the
but.
chemovars. They're
Well,
just
I don't
yeah.
like chemovars either because
No.
you can have the same thing. Like, okay, so we could take a cutting off the same mom. You take it home, I take it home. It's the same strain. We grow it differently. They're going to have different chemical profiles because you're in Canada and I'm in New Jersey. Those two are
Yes, this is
different
true.
chemovars. And so now you're not actually categorizing things. You're just splitting everything up into individual
Into
things.
its individual identity.
Yeah.
What well, what would be a really good classification method?
Well, so I think all right, so it's unfortunate that indica and sativa were used to describe a morphological grow habit, right? So indicas are darker in color, they're shorter in stature, they grow in colder climates. Sativas are taller, they're lighter in color, they are branchier, leggier, and they grow in warmer climates. So they are locally adapted to these two different regions. It makes sense to me that they're regionally different. They're going to have different pests, different pathogen pressures, different adaptations to those different areas. Why the hell wouldn't they produce different compounds to, effectively ward off different pathogens in that area or different pests in this area? They're not going
Yeah.
to create the same compounds because they're not the same, right? So, we on when we're looking at, okay, so what is, other than morphology, what makes an indica and a sativa, and I don't like attaching effects to something because like I say, stop telling people how to feel. Like if I say, here, drink this beer, it'll make you tired. Like maybe beer doesn't make you tired, maybe beer makes you want to dance on a tabletop with no clothes on. Everybody's different, right? So I don't like attaching words to it, but
Is that experience speaking right there?
I don't know.
No.
That like if you say this is an indica, try it, and this is a sativa, try it. Like this is a white wine and this is a beer. Take it,
hmm
see which one you like better. Like I know I'm gonna like the wine better. I'm not gonna like the beer. So I kind of see them as bucket categories. And the thing
Yeah.
is like when we have tried in the past to look and say, okay, there's no such thing as indica sativa. We've looked at THC and CBD. That doesn't seem to be the driver. We've looked at the terpenes. How many terpenes have we looked at? Probably no more than 30. How many terpenes are found in cannabis? Right? Over 120. What about the esters? What about the thiols? What about the um so many other things, right? We haven't looked at any of those things. And if we look at the genome, have we looked at the entire genome? No, we have not looked at the entire genome. We've only looked at portions of the genome and we've come up with there's no such thing as indica and sativa. So I would point your attention at warblers. There's a golden winged warbler and a blue winged warbler. They're different species. They sound different. They look different. They are 99.97, no, 99.939% similar in their genome. That's the whole genome. They have 6 different little portions of the genome where they differ. That's it.
Alleles. Yeah.
They are identical for the most part, but they're incredibly different. Like they look different, they sound different, they behave different. Um, but yet their genomes are basically identical. And I'm like, that could be what we're seeing with the indica sativa thing. We just haven't found the answer yet. And so with some of this bro science stuff, like the indica sativa thing, and science has a look at it and goes, no, we don't see it. It's not true. It's like, have is all the science in? Have we looked in all the places? Or are we just like, yeah, we didn't find it, so it can't be true? It's like, but you didn't look at everything, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I think in my mind, and I don't know that anybody will be able to change it because I'm stubborn, and I also think I'm right. Uh, I mean, maybe somebody will eventually convince me the other way, but I think indica and sativa are a perfectly good place to start. And humans need a way to communicate. And if you don't know anything about something that you're interested in learning about, you got to start with the basics. Like if you walk into a bakery and you've never been into a bakery before, and the baker says, "What would you like?" And you're like, "I have no idea." They're gonna ask you some questions, right? They're gonna be like, "Do you want something fruity? Do you want something chocolatey? Do you want something flaky or, creamy?" And so you can ask these questions and you can kind of whittle down based on preferences that you might have for other things, maybe something that you'll like. Or they could say, okay, well, smell this and then smell this. Like, which one appeals to you more? And I feel like that's how we could go with cannabis, right? In terms of like preferences. Um, but yeah, I think indica and sativa is a fine place to start. And then as people go down their pathway of learning more about it, then we can start having conversations about chemovar
Adding
and,
layers.
and yeah, and what terpenes you like and what kinds of aromatics appeal to you more. I like the earthy, like manly, dirty smells. I've got a friend who really likes like the citrusy bright smells.
Mm.
So like everybody's different, but you wouldn't say, well, here's this thing, you're gonna love it because I do too. Because if you give me a piece of pizza with pineapple on it and you say that I'm gonna love it, I'm gonna throw it in your face because that's disgusting.
No way. Well, I think that that's. Oh, I'm slightly offended. No, I, Hawaii. As a quick side note, I recently learned that Hawaiian pizza was invented in Canada by a Greek migrant. I think it was
There
around the
you
Toronto
go.
region, and so.
I just the
But
idea.
like you're not a fan of pineapple on pizza. I love pineapple on pizza, but that doesn't mean that, what I like you're gonna like as well. And I see exactly what you mean in terms of,
Yeah.
being able to approach that topic in term of it's even it is medicine, right? Medicine is starting to get really personalized as well. And I think that with these new avenues and these new facets that cannabis should be taken the same way. I agree with you in terms of the terminology that's being used, especially if we're trying to normalize it and bring it into the average public eye where people will say what are the typical effects of a sativa or an indica in a way, and they'll say indica in the couch, right? And I like those rules of thumbs that people have used. I don't think that we should you know politically correct people for their approach to cannabis if they're trying to get in, not trying to get into it, but dipping their toes
Learn.
in the water, right? You don't want to overstimulate them with, oh, but chemovars, varieties, strains, types, effects, terpenes as well, right? A
Yeah.
slow and steady introduction. You can't rush art, and so it's sometimes some things need to take a bit of time, and it's really when you start getting deeper into it that those different layers start to pile on and
And
deepen.
it's like that with like everything, right? So music, if when you're in high school, you like teeny bop music. Is it the greatest music on earth? No, but it's really catchy and it's fun to listen to when you're young. And as your taste in music grows, you might say, well, classical music is dumb. It all sounds the same. But then as your taste change, you might start to enjoy like Vivaldi or something. Like it's all different. And then medicine. You mentioned that medicine is getting very personal and whatnot. But like even medicines or other, substances, caffeine, for example. Like for most people, caffeine is going to be uplifting. Drink a cup of coffee in the morning to wake up. For somebody who has ADHD, caffeine is going to calm them down. So we can't expect everything to work on everybody the same way. Antidepressants. You don't go to the doctor and say, "Hey, I'm feeling a little sad," and the doctor says, "Take one of these and call me in the morning." They're going to say, "Okay, well, so this seems to work really well for a lot of people. I see that it's covered by your insurance, so let's start you out on this." You come back 2 weeks later and you're like, "I'm having nightmares. I want to kill myself, and I've gained 30 pounds." The doctor's going to go, "Oh, that one is not for you. Then let's try you on something else." And it's kind of this, uh it's a journey, right? You've got to do some trial and error before you land on something that's going to work for you with your physiology. That medicine might be good, but you might come back 2 weeks later and be like, I'm feeling a little less sad, but I'm still not feeling, 100%. And so he might up your dose, or he might add something else in to supplement that medicine that's already starting to work. And so I don't know why we are so we think that cannabis is so simple. Like you should just be able to just take it and go and know what it's going to do to you, or whatever. This is going to get rid of my pain, or this is going to stop my anxiety, or whatever. Like that doesn't happen right away for just about anything.
Yeah, it takes right, trial and error is very important. I I was gonna go off on that as well. Just a little bit of some shameless plug on there. The like that's I think that that's the approach that we take, especially when it comes to the platform for GrowDoc, right? We totally understand that different grows in different greenhouses, different, environments, whether they be, totally indoors, outdoors, or greenhouses, that everybody does it a little bit different. And so being
Hmm.
able to customize and personalize it and tailor it is where that effect gets the best, right? I mean, if we're looking at cannabis, right? Once you find that strain that provides that pain relief that you're looking for, or that mellowness that you're searching for, that makes and does wonders for you. And being able to translate that into an integrated pest management platform to make it as comfortable and easy as possible. Shout out to the boy. Thank you for
Total
that
Well,
one.
yeah, everybody does grow differently. Even I mean, if you and your neighbor have the exact same greenhouse, made by the same dude, all the same bells and whistles that have been put in place, you got the same beds, you've got the same strains. Those personal touches that grower puts to that grow are going to create differences. Like it's an art form, right? And so no matter how similar every grow is, you could have a multi-state operator where it's like McDonald's, every single thing is the same. But any kind of variation in that is gonna change. And that could be the sunlight, the latitude, the person who's tending the plants. Like it's never gonna all be exactly the same. And
No.
cannabis is super plastic. It responds very resiliently to any kind of adversity, and usually maybe not the way you want it to, but it'll respond.
I definitely found out that they like to talk back for sure.
It's gonna do something. It's gonna throw out some nanners, or it's gonna do something.
Definitely.
All right. So what's currently, your passions and your peeves going on up there in Canada? Canada.
Well, in the cannabis industry specifically, I don't have a whole lot of pet peeves. I think it's a slow moving industry. It's definitely slowed down in the last couple of years. There's a lot less producers than there have been in the past, but I do think that the quality of product that's coming out is good. One thing though that I do want to mention, if we're on that path of, inconsistencies and growing and changing and personalization, if I do have one pet peeve when it comes to the how do I say it? When you're trying to move like the cannabis classification from recreational to medicinal, there
Mm-hmm.
has to be some kind of, a standard. And let's say you take an Advil bottle, right? Every single Advil pill that you take, you expect to have the same effect, right? It's going to be consistent every single time. And being able to grow in a way where you're maintaining that stringent little type frame that you have, like my THC can only vary by 0.2%, or the CBD, or even the weight in that sense can only vary by so much. And trying to reproduce that, especially in a not perfect environment like a greenhouse, is especially difficult. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest challenges that it comes to.
Can
I
we
am
expect that with a natural product though? Like, do, uh, if we think about produce, right? The blueberries, when you go into the store, are not going to be the same every single time. Sometimes there's really huge ones, sometimes there's little ones, or apples. Like sometimes the Honey Crisps are huge, sometimes they're not that big. And I guess it depends where they're coming from, but they still have all of the attributes of a Honey Crisp apple, but they vary in size. there was a couple of years there where Honey Crisps were just shit, didn't taste like Honey Crisps at all, and it was very disappointing because my favorite apple I thought had gone to pot, gone
I,
gone to the wayside. But
I
they're back. They're
recently
back. They're delicious again, so that's
I had
great. But
I had one the other day. I had a really delicious Honeycrisp apple. It was some slices. I tried it with peanut butter for the first time. That was
how was
something.
it?
I'm used to always doing it with caramel, and I tried it with peanut butter, and it's
Peanut butter's probably healthier.
ooh,
But you know what I mean? So I think
yeah,
with natural products, I think that people have a wider spread of forgiveness for variation than they do if they're given a product formula. You know, if they're buying a tincture, it should be the same every single time,
I
right? Because it's
agree.
formulated to a specific to a specification, and there should be very little variation from batch to batch because it should have, you know, X amount of milligrams of this and X amount of milligrams of this and this terpene and this terpene and this terpene. And so you come to expect, just like when you take an Advil, this thing should do this because it's the same every single time.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, 100%. And I think it's the challenges in being able to do that with a crop. I mean, I don't think that's ever been seen before, really, that I know of, where we're taking, a new product that we can work with and being able to take it to the stage of, this is, we're classifying this as a medical product that as an equivalent to an Advil per se. And I think the difficulty is now being able to put that on. It's not going to fit right or perfectly. There's always going to be shifts and changes and imperfections across the board there. And to me,
Yeah.
I find that's a challenge in and of itself.
And
But
I think too, like, okay, so Advil, you know, you have a headache. You take an
yeah,
Advil, it's not an instant headache fix, right? You have to wait
no,
about 20 minutes and then you're like, oh, my headache's gone. And you don't really know that it's happening, but all of a sudden you don't have a headache and you're like, oh, cool, it worked. But like cannabis, if you're gonna inhale it, it's a pretty immediate response. Like you know what it's gonna do. It's not gonna keep getting more intense and more intense. Like it's, you know, you get to
it
that level.
peaks.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, I can handle a bit more, or I'd like a little bit more. And so then you know, you have another one, right? Another hit. But it's not that unless it's an edible, you don't have that onset of action is, you know, extended. So you can kind of gauge your response better with inhalation versus an Advil because it's you can feel the effects immediately. You
Yes,
know what's going on.
right. You don't
Whereas in
ingest it, and you
yeah,
don't ingest it in the same way. But
right. An
at the
Advil
same time,
you might take two and then you know half an hour or an hour later you still have a headache. So then you're like, I'm gonna take two more. And meanwhile you've had a headache for over an hour.
and that in and of itself is the headache.
Yeah.
But
No, you go ahead.
oh, well, I was gonna say with edibles too, right? I would say that that's something that's probably totally different too. I am by far I'm a joint consumer. I will stay loyal to my joints and my blunts as they are. But I definitely think if we're looking at cannabis in a more medical way too, that some of these patients that are going to be experimenting with this, maybe I say experimenting because it's definitely new. I think that they're going to consume it in a way where it's more as in terms of an edible than it is to be an inhalant. I like as well, right? And if we're looking back at that variation in effects that we were just talking about a little bit earlier, like are the effects that are smoked different than the effects that are consumed to eat as well? And so how do we test that and how do we gauge that? How do we quantify that to a way where, I can safely give this, this brownie to an immunocompromised person. I know that they're not gonna shit bricks for, and they're gonna have a good experience. But at the same time too, you don't want it to be too little of an effect because then they'll say that this doesn't work for me,
Right.
and then you don't want it to be too strong, and so
And they don't
you're
want to come
shooting
back.
in the dark with a
Yeah.
gun that you can't even see. You don't even know how you've gotten there, and so it's just a whole lot of unknowns all across the board. And I there's challenges there for sure, but no discourage. And that's a testament to your statement about more research that needs to be done. More questions need to be answered overall.
Yeah, and going back to the idea of telling people how they feel or how they should feel, you know, just giving them a product and saying this will make you sleepy. in terms of like the new people who are just starting out and trying to figure out what their preferences are and what works for them. If you tell somebody how they're going to feel, if you say, "Oh yeah, this is an indica, it's going to make you sleepy," and then they go home and they get ready for bed and they take their cannabis, and then all of a sudden they're wide fucking awake and they're uncomfortable and they're having an anxiety attack and their heart is racing and they're sweating, like they might think that there's something wrong with them, that cannabis is not, they don't like it because they were told they were going to have some effect. It had the opposite effect. And now they think there's either something wrong with them or that they don't like cannabis because it did the wrong thing to them. And so I think that's another like cautionary tale for people to just think about when we're talking to people who are just starting out, just learning, and especially our aged population who are becoming more interested in cannabis because, a lot of these old folks are on a lot of different things that their doctors,
Hey, as
right?
far as I know, those the our elder, I would say, for lack of a better way, our elderly population, they were the ones that probably partied the hardest. And I think it is absolutely so cool that they're interested in this. And I think that you're about to say that they're on these concoctions of different pharmaceuticals, right? And
Hmm.
that's probably not good for their liver. It's probably not good for their kidneys either. There's got to be alternatives, right? And I think that this is, yeah,
And
I'll
it's
toss it right
also
back to
not
you.
like it's also probably not that easy to manage your medication schedule if you've got, you know, these pills that you take once a day, these pills you take twice a day, these pills you take three times a day. This one you take with food, this one you have to take with water, this one you have to eat on an empty stomach, this one you take right before, like, oh my God. Like, how many alarms do they have to have on their phones and little pill boxes and opening all of those, childproof? I don't know, like, just Jesus Christ. I can't even do it, and I only take like 5 pills a day.
It's it's a whole other job. But I
It's a
can
whole
only
other
imagine,
job.
right? And it's just like that, how much, and it, like, I guess we're getting real deep into it too. Like, I mean, at that point when you become to that where you have like all these concoctions of different medicines that you're abiding by, right? And wouldn't you want some of that freedom back if you're able to eat a brownie? Right?
Yeah.
Like being able to have those freedoms of being able to exist and experience and not be controlled by an alarm. I think that, you know, I think that that would also, help people that have potentially like some mental health problems from having to take all of these issues, like all of these medications, right? It
Mm.
alleviates maybe a little bit of that pressure, that stress of when's the next pill coming and stuff like that. And oh, I gotta go get a refill, and I hope it goes through on my insurance, right? It just opens up a whole can of worms in terms of, of worry and doubt and stress. And I think that, people who are interested in potentially trying this plant out, I think that that could alleviate some of that for them as well. Not
Mm.
necessarily be a direct effect to pain or something like that,
Mm.
but that was one of the reasons that I enjoyed smoking cannabis when I was a student in university, is that it took away the pressure of the deadlines,
Mm.
and it allowed me to be more present, more focused about what I was doing in that time, whether it was, eating some hot Cheetos, whether it was for studying for a
Mm.
midterm, but it took away the deadlines for me, and allowed me to stay at a more consistent baseline level.
I can just picture you talking to a professor and being like, "Oh yeah, I didn't do that because I was
I,
high.
I, I forgot. I forgot.
I don't have that right now. I'll get it to you later."
Can I have an
That's cool,
extension,
right?
please?
Deadlines
Definitely.
don't apply to me.
But you know what I'm trying to say, yeah.
No, I do. This is what, because I got high, because I got high, because I.
I remember in the cannabis bunker when we were doing our lessons on growing cannabis. That was one of the main songs that we had playing in the background. I feel very nostalgic and tied to that song. I was gonna go to class,
But
but
then I
then I
got
got
high.
high.
Whoops. So all right, so I think I saw somewhere that GrowDoc is also under another company name, or you have another sector. Is is that right? Did I see that
Yeah,
right?
we're branching out into because a lot of the hesitancy that we get when we're trying to expand out of cannabis and reaching with other horticulture spaces is, we reach out to them and we're saying, hey, we're this company and this is what we do. but they instantly shut us down when they see that we're cannabis related. And
Mm,
so,
yep.
right, if we're looking into different countries as well, legislation and legalization might not be appropriate there at that time. And so it can cause a lot of doubts. And being able to separate the two entities and being able to have one that's cannabis specific and one that's non-cannabis specific as well.
Yeah. Yeah, just then that yeah, that's there is still stigma attached to cannabis no matter which way you cut it, right?
Yeah, especially yeah, on the professional on the business side of things, and so that's kind of where that is. It's yeah. Um, I don't think that there's too much that I can talk about that one though.
That's okay. I was
Thank
just
you.
wondering because I had just seen I think on LinkedIn or something that there was another name and I was just kind of like, I wonder what they're doing. And I guess I'll find out.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
And as well, we've been working on different types of features and functionalities in the platform and expanding that out. So something like inventory tracking and management. So if we can connect with an ERP system and then we can get a list of plants and being able to assign them based off of sizing, right? Be able to create a much more efficient or logical way of moving plants back and forth rather than moving them from bay one all the way to bay 13. Just knowing that if we push it by maybe 3 days, we'll have bay five open and we can go from bay one to bay five type thing. Um, that's kind of like the biggest things that we've been working on a like on a professional side. I mean, on a more personal side, because I would say that we're pretty good friends, and I'll let you in on the little parts that I've been doing. I recently just moved to a whole new city here. I'm experiencing it for the first time. I'm in Hamilton, Ontario. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. Um, I used to be a part of the Horticultural Society in Ottawa where I was, so I got to find a new clique to hang out with. But it was funny because I at the old society I was the only like young dude that was there, and I got to appreciate all of like these homemade baked goods on Thursdays. It was so good. And I'm hoping it's funny. I was all in the community garden. I'd always try to convince people, like, come on, let me grow one plant. Let me grow one plant. And they're like, oh, it's by a school. We can't. I'm like, yeah, but come on, it's CBD. Nobody's gonna know. It's okay. And so I think it was good. I got to smoke my joint with some newfound friends, and now I'm excited to join the Horticultural Society out here and see what this landscape is about, see what kind of community gardens are out here. Um, yeah, I mean it's still winter time for us, so I feel like myself and a lot of people feel a little bit more sedentary about things rather than nomadic.
Hmm.
Uh, I guess I'm a pretty boring dude. I just sit at home and grow
Smoke weed.
plants on my windowsill.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
New Jersey and it's still wintertime here too, but it's gonna be spring soon, hopefully, and that's when the bike riding and the hiking starts to happen, right? And
yes,
the
there
beer
is.
drinking.
Well, if Saturdays
Patio
are for the
time.
boys.
Yeah.
Oh yes, patio season.
Yeah.
Hamilton is built on a hill, and so there's a lot of bike trails and a lot of like hike trails, a lot of waterfalls. I think that this place is very much well known for its waterfalls around here, so I'm really excited to check that out. So shout out the city of Hamilton, the Hammer.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Maybe I'll flash some pictures up on the screen when I do the
Oh,
editing.
that'd be really cool. Yeah, there's some really nice falls out here. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, Canada's really pretty, I hear, but it's north. I'm hoping to move south where it's warmer.
Where it's warmer. I don't blame you. On the speaking of the spring thing, I think in Nova Scotia they do something like groundhog, but
Mm.
they do it with a lobster instead.
And is the lobster more accurate than the groundhog?
I'm not too sure. I recently just heard about this. I'll
That's
go
that's funny. I
the
didn't know lobsters could talk.
uh,
But groundhogs can.
right right. So Lucy the lobster, I believe she makes Groundhog Day predictions, and then that kicks off the lobster festival.
And then she gets eaten. Oh.
We gotta love lobster.
All right. Well, Max, is there anything else that you want to discuss or ask me or anything? I mean, we've covered some pretty good ground today, I think, and
I
I'm
feel like we've
interested.
covered. from sure. I feel like we've covered A to Z here. It was a very, I think it was very broad, and I think that we flowed really, really smoothly between everything.
And
Um,
I'm a big fan of GrowDoc. I always will be. I feature you in one of my classes in the cultivation section on how to, well, it's in the pest pathogens and problems section. I feature you as one of the tools that you can grab onto for diagnostics. Of course, no diagnostics is difficult, especially with pictures, because there's so much information that goes into what a problem could be caused by, right?
hmm So
Um,
thank you. I really thank you. That
yeah.
means a lot. I really appreciate that.
I can't wait to see what happens and what new things you've got coming in the future. Um, but if somebody is interested in GrowDoc or implementing any of your systems, how can they get a hold of you? How can they get in touch with you? Where do they find you? Email, LinkedIn, website?
Um, I will say like the quickest and the easiest way to get a hold of me is either through email. So it's my name, Maxx at growdoc.ai. Similarly on Instagram, I'm easy to find on Instagram, Max on Stacks. So that's Maxx on Stacks, Staxx. I don't think I'm shadow banned there, so I think I should be able to be found. Apart from that, like LinkedIn, Maxx Smith as well, same. Two X's, no E. That's where it's at. Any kind of social media, even Facebook, I go under Maxx Smith as well. I'm relatively easy to find, but I'm hard to keep.
Hard to nail down.
That's the way she goes. But no, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time and the patience today, Anna. I think that your platform is incredible. I think that the discussions that you have here are very informative, and I think that they're special to me, and I hope that they're special to you as well. And I just want to say thank you one last time for the time and the presence here on the stage. Thank you, and to any future and past enjoys the show, welcome. Stay here for a long time. Stay here for a good time. And to anybody else that's presenting, best of luck. And everybody that's here presenting with you, Anna is very fortunate to be sat here.
Thank you so much, Max. I love
Thank
you.
you.
We'll
I
talk
love
to you
you.
soon.
Talk
All
soon.
right. All right. Bye.
Bye for now.